Good evening. This is your host, Paul.
This is Karen. We both welcome you to our very first Gub debate on Garam Chai with Karan and Paul.
On behalf of Karen and yours truly, Saryanu Namaste, Sat Sri Akal, Salam Alaikum.
Before we begin, I'd like to say that this stage is bilingual. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨਾ ਮੰਗਦੇ ਆ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਰਨਾ ਮੰਗਦੇ ਆ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ we are both languages are welcomed here.
And you know what? If you ask a question and we answer in a different language, please don't mind. Unlike Karen, my Punjabi is not the greatest.
Well, let's start off with love. Now, love is this beautiful feeling. It's this gushy mushiness that we all feel, but it's also a very strong emotion.
Yes, emotions are very strong. And because of these emotions, wars have started. There's been families that have been broken up simply because of love.
And because of love, look at us. Families have been created. Half of humanity is created because of love. Okay? Now, and that leads to marriage, right? Marriage is a sacred bond. ਜਦੋਂ ਕੁੜੀ ਮੁੰਡੇ ਦਾ ਵਿਆਹ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਬਹੁਤ ਪਵਿੱਤਰ ਰਿਸ਼ਤਾ ਮੰਨਿਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਆਪਣੇ ਕਲਚਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਾਕੀਆਂ ਦੇ ਕਲਚਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ. It's also celebrated by a ceremony, which of course is marriage, that changes one's status from being single to being married. Being married also gives legitimacy to sexual relations within marriage.
But Karen, living relationships, they were never accepted nor tolerated at that time.
Yes.
And a lot of people would argue that evolution is crucial only after change. And if you look at Canada being a multicultural nation, the Canadian Constitution actually promotes, recognizes, as well as encourages everyone to practice their cultural beliefs and traditions. For example, the Vancouver Canucks holding Diwali every year.
I know, that's great. It makes you proud to be Indo-Canadian. You know, this is really nice to see that our culture is being embraced by many different other cultures.
And even House of Commons having Diwali, holding Diwali divas and other traditional ceremonies because of a change, as well as even South Asians holding parades and counterparts for their beloved Canucks to win the Stanley Cup.
Of course. Once again, you know, proud to be Canadian there. Also, you know, you're looking at schools. Teachers will send home letters, or the school boards will send home letters, and they'll say, you know what, tusi apna bana pa kar aao, right? Suit vich saj ke aao. Apna, whatever your outfits are, what your traditions are, apa Diwali manani hai, ja apa Vaisakhi manani hai, ja apa Lohri manani hai. You know, we have been embraced by this country. Our culture has been embraced, which is something to be very proud of. Now, over the years, we're seeing a huge shift of culture. Now, let's go back to our time. Paul, do you remember the time when arranged marriages used to take place?
Absolutely. You know, there was a pachola involved, and the only time a husband or wife got to see one another was after the wedding ceremony.
You know, mummy, daddy jaake, jab pachola jaake labda si kudi munde nu, they never even got to see each other. Kudi munde ne vekhna bhi nahi hai ke duje nu vyah kar dena. Phir introduction marriages start ho gayan. Introduction was when parents introduced you, and then you went on, they'd say, chal pot tusi jaake akadi date kare aao, tusi jaake mil lo. You'd get to see each other once or twice. Phir tusi haan de vich ja na de vich tusi mummy daddy nu dasna haan sanu pasand hai ja nahi. It became the introduction marriage.
And Karen, then it led to love marriage.
Yes.
Now, it's actually the parents are asking the children, do you have someone in mind?
That's right.
And if you don't, you know, we'll get someone, or we'll find someone for you. So there's been an evolution of change, hopefully for the better and for positive.
No, they say, han pot tu jaake apne aap kudi lab la ja. They say to their daughter, nahi, han tusi appe hi munda lab lo. Phir sanu aake das deo, right? So times have really changed. I think we can all agree on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Now, couples are choosing not to get married, but rather just have a live-in relationship. Now the question remains, is it right to live in before marriage, or is it wrong? How important is it to you to live in with your partner before marriage?
And respect to our traditions, if we do change, are they for better or for worse?
And is there still value in having a marriage certificate?
While keeping all these questions in mind, let's start today's debate. On today's show, we have a great group of people who are present to verbalize their strong opinion regarding this controversial topic. It gives me a great pleasure to introduce our panel who believe that couples should not live together before marriage. Chitna, Pushpinder, and Ams.
AMS, I got the name down. And now for our panelists, whom strongly believe that live in relationships should be encouraged and accepted in our society. Amrita and Sarah, welcome. Ladies and gentlemen,
Boys and girls of all ages,
with a cup of Garam Chai.
let's enjoy a gummed debate.
Okay, Chetana. So, let's start with you. How do you feel about this topic? As you're saying that you believe that couples should marry and move in together.
Yeah, that's right.
They
So
should.
basically, in our like East India culture, right, though they say that very modern society and everything, but still live-in relationships not being accepted open-heartedly, and it's still considered as a taboo. And the biggest advantage of live-in relationship is also the biggest disadvantage, as in, you're very flexible. There is no commitment. You can move out of the relationship as and when you want. It's as easy as packing your bags, booking an Uber, and walking out. So where is the beauty of the relationship in the live-in kind of a scenario?
Okay, Sarah, I'm sure you heard Chetna's view. What is your view on what she had to say?
My view on this is going the divorce rate, the separation rate, and then the divorce rate is so huge. It is unnecessary. What worked for our families, our ancestors back in the day that isn't working now? Well, there's a generation shift, right? I feel that couples should have the opportunity when they're in their final time of moving to the next level of the relationship, which is marriage, going into a legal binding agreement. When you are about to step into that world, as when you're about to purchase a home, go for a job, purchase a vehicle, or planning on having children, you think of many things before you go in. You want to go in with your eyes wide open. You do not want to be blindsided. You don't want to be what you thought and what's happened and what's transpired. So my thought is that yes, our children should be given the opportunity to love, be together, and only when they're at the stage of the maturity of the relationship and they're going to the next level, that they should live together to have an understanding of each other and not be blindsided, and to establish boundaries, know about each other's good and bad behavior, what is it that they need when they come home, what they don't need when they come home, and how they're going to cohabitate with each other. Because there's so many other factors now in this world that are causing breakups that we do not need them to have that layer of uncertainty and a loss of expectations per se.
Well spoken. Ams, you're the youngest one here on the panel. What is your view? Just being Indo-Canadian, being brought up here as a Canadian, what is your view on, do you think you're going to get to know your spouse much better if you get to live in with him beforehand? Or are you still saying no?
I feel like when we're dating the other person, we spend so much time with the other person because it's not like the olden times where you don't get to see your boyfriend or girlfriend a lot. Because I know in the olden times, parents would say, you can only see this person once a month, or you're not allowed to see each other too much. I feel like we have the opportunity to spend a lot of time together. I mean, couples even take vacations together. And I feel like, like even a short trip, as in going to Mexico for like a week, you kind of get to know the other person's habits. And I feel like by telling the younger generation that, go live in together, we're kind of letting them have the easy way out. Because I feel like when we're living in together, we're kind of looking for the flaws in the other person as to why it shouldn't work out, or we go in with a certain expectation. But I feel like when you're married and you're living together, you have a higher level of commitment that our generation needs to live by. And I feel like we really lack that right now, and it kind of helps you understand like rules and kind of like understand the concept of family better.
Amrita, you are for live-in relationships. Is your perception based on personal experience, religion, or something else?
Amrita, we can't hear you. Can you hold on just one sec? Are you muted, Amrita? Oh, okay. Can you say something, Amrita?
Okay, while Amrita's getting her mic fixed, Raj, I'll put that question to you.
I think many of those factors actually do come into play. I mean, one of the biggest factors has been how I was brought up, but also what's happened in my own personal life. I was one of those people who did decide to go against the traditional value system and have a love marriage. But the challenges arrived when we were about to get married, and we had objections come from both from our parents, from one side anyhow. And at that time, as my now husband, we were making a decision. We had to decide what we wanted to do. My husband had initially proposed that we actually move in together, that he was in love with me enough that we did not need to have a marriage certificate to say how we felt about each other. And I remember at that time thinking, maybe that's the option I want to go. But then the more I thought about it, there's something so binding by you signing that paper. It gives you this extra sense of commitment to the individual that may not necessarily be there if when I just walked in as a girlfriend who could potentially leave. So my husband and I decided we would get married before we moved in. And that one signature was so life-changing, and it was so important for us to have the commitment. Now what it meant was, if I fought with my husband, I didn't get to walk away the way I might have been able to walk away if I was not signed into a marriage contract. So I think my own personal experience does dictate that, no, there is something to be said, and there's some value to be put on having that marriage there.
Okay, so how do you feel? Because, as Pushpinder Paul was saying, that it's very important to have that piece of paper, to say that, yes, one is married. Now, how do you feel about that?
So, मेरा ख्याल ये है कि सारे जिन्ने भी ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਵੀ ਮੈਂ ਸੋਚਦੀ ਆ ਵੀ ਰਹਿਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪਰਸਨ ਨੂੰ ਜਾਣਨ ਦਾ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਟਾਈਮ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਓਕੇ ਜਾਣਨ ਦਾ ਟਾਈਮ ਮੇਰਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਕਹਿਣ ਦਾ ਵੀ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਰਾਜ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਕਹੀ ਸੀ ਵੀ ਇੱਕ ਸਿਗਨੇਚਰ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਬਾਈਂਡ ਕਰ ਦਿੰਦਾ ਰਾਈਟ ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੀ ਵੀ ਮੈਂ ਆਈ ਕੈਨਟ ਵਾਕ ਅਵੇ ਓਕੇ ਬਟ ਮੈਂ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀਆਂ ਮੈਰਿਜ ਵੀ ਦੇਖੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਿਰਫ ਉਹ ਪੇਪਰ ਕਰਕੇ ਹੀ ਬਾਈਂਡ ਹੋਏ ਹੋ ਬਿਕਾਜ਼ ਆਪਣਾ ਸਮਾਜ ਕੀ ਕਹੂਗਾ ਓਕੇ ਪੀਪਲ ਕੀ ਕਹਿਣਗੇ ਯੂ ਆਰ ਮੈਰਿਡ ਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਕੱਲ ਵਿਆਹ ਹੋਇਆ ਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਡਿਵੋਰਸ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਰਾਈਟ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਆਪਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਵਰਕਆਊਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ okay you guys are not getting along with each other but you are saying either for the sake of the parents or for the other people what the other people will think okay so in my mind I think you should live together because then you get to know the person not that eventually you shouldn't get married but just rushing into getting married I am not for that I will say I want to get to know the person
I agree
Pushpinder Paul, how would you like to respond to that?
I'm right. One of the things that we're talking about is the binding document, that paper. But it sounds, when I'm talking about that binding paper, one of the things that really does stick out to me is there was a study done about, there's done actually in Time magazine. It was where they said, hey, when we're looking at relationships, which one has a more likely of a success rate? There was a higher success rate in that signature of being married. So I can't say it. The stats do indicate that there is actually a potential higher success rate when you are married. And it's not about being able to walk away from a marriage. I mean, I think if you're in a bad marriage, absolutely you should walk away. What it is that commitment level is a lot higher. And I'm talking about the study again, because it said that 50% of live-in relationships did not trust their significant other. But when you asked a married person, there was a 75% rate that trusted their significant other. That's a 25% difference.
No, I agree with you, Raj. I'm not saying that's fine, understand. But I'm talking about, okay, fine, you're married, okay, for a couple of years, and you're married, you got kids and everything working out, and down the road is something that is not working out, okay. Now you're living for the sake of the kids, okay. It's before, I guess maybe this is the wrong thing to say, because if you didn't have the kids, it'd be easy to walk away. If you have the kids, then people, all I hear is, only I'm living here in this marriage because of the sake of the kids.
A lot of people do that.
A lot of people do that. But I know, because if you were living together, I guess it'd be same thing. Because if you got kids, oh God, this is a kind of a really crucial, I think. I don't know, but would you say?
Okay, why would you think a live-in marriage would?
Okay, 1 second, guys. Okay, you know what? Let's give AMS an opportunity to answer, or get into this debate as to what Raj and Amrita said.
I just want to touch bases on the fact that, about your son saying that, oh, it's just a piece of paper. When it comes to that, if I'm in a relationship with somebody and we've been dating for a while, and we get to that point of our relationship where we are ready to, commit to living together, and we are thinking about a future together, a question that would pop in my mind is, why would this person want the perks of a wife and won't put a ring on it and commit legally? But also, when we're looking at two people, when we're giving advice to our younger siblings or our children, and say your kid comes up to you and they're like, I want to date this person, but this person doesn't want to put a label on it. They want to go on dates with me, want me to act like a girlfriend, but they won't give me a label of a girlfriend. We're going to turn around and say, that's not okay, because why doesn't this person want to give you a label? So when this person wants to marry you, they want you to act like a wife, but why don't they want to give you a label?
Well, Pinky, how would you like to respond to that? Is that label really important? Do we need that label to be in a very satisfied relationship, or to be completely committed? Does that label make you feel more committed?
In our culture, it is. In the Punjabi culture, you need that label.
So you feel that we need the label?
Yeah. I mean, I was 18 when I got married.
Okay.
And it was pretty much like, we're going to take you to India and get you married. So it would have been arranged marriage. Mm-hmm. And I only lasted 10 years.
Fair enough.
So my ex-husband said it's just it's a license to sleep together. Okay. And that was his way of saying this marriage license. It's like, yeah, it's a certificate and it's an approval that we can sleep together. And that was back in the 80s, though. I mean, times have changed, generations have changed, parents have changed a lot. I know a few families that actually have stuck it through because the kids are young and they need both parents. But I don't know what topic we're on because I came on late. Sorry, I was working. But I mean, I think that living together before marriage is a really good idea, personally.
And Sarah, I think Sarah would agree with you. Sarah would agree with you. Sarah, how do you feel about that?
That's okay, Karen. Hi again, Pinky. Yes.
Hi.
While it used to be extremely taboo or even not allowed, now many couples do choose to move in together before making this commitment and tying the knot. But I'm diverting from. I just want to respond to AMS. AMS.
Okay.
I agree with you. Your generation right now, you guys are dating. I'm assuming, or your peers or your family and friends, they're dating. So it is very important for them to even walk into a room and be referred to, hi, this is Sarah, my girlfriend, right?
Yeah.
So it's the maturity level as well. If they're not even there to get to the level of introducing you as their girlfriend or even a partner, right? How they're going to get to the level of a legal binding document, which that document is very crucial, right? Just like the analogy I used before for purchasing a home, a car, we have legal documents in place, and they're in place for a reason, and a reason that has worked. being in a relation in a toxic relationship for the sake of children, for the sake of your aging mother, your dying brother, your somebody who has now cancer, there's always going to be these hiccups, these roadblocks for you, your peace of mind, and what's best for yourself. And I'm going to say Asian women, as an Asian woman, do not stay in a toxic relationship. You want to avoid all that. The reason for this topic today, for living together, is to avoid all that. So once you're living together, you've established boundaries. You've established how much time do you need down when you come home? What is it that, and this is without living with in-laws, extended families. This is just you and your partner in a home. Are you able to live under that person's restrictions? Are you right?
Thank you, Sarah. Chetna, I understand you recently immigrated from Delhi. Everyone seems to feel that Canada is way more advanced than India is. And we actually had a very interesting conversation not too long ago. That's actually Canada that is not advanced as much as India, because people that immigrated to Canada back in, say, 1975, they still think that India is the way they left it. But that is not the case. So,
well, we are talking about the live-in relations.
So that was my question, Karen.
I know.
Is so the live-in relationship, are there more people living together in India than there are in Canada?
Well, I would say that, it's both ways. In Canada, it's by law, you can live in together as a common law partner. So the government approves it, right? But in India, this is still not legal. And especially the friends and family would never approve your live-in relationship with each other. It's because they feel, and I also feel the same way, that the marriage gives you confidence that no matter how rough the waters are, you'll always sail through. You'll do everything to make your marriage work. And it's not about understanding each other. You can definitely understand each other after you get married, right? So even if you're in a live-in relationship and you're trying to understand each other and you're trying to set your boundaries, you still don't take that responsibility. We are saying that we are living in a marriage relationship for the sake of children. So what if your children are born out of wedlock? What are you going to do then? Are you going to extend your relationship because of your children? Or it's easy to still walk out?
Well, that's the question. Amrita, what would you say? Like, if you had a child out of wedlock, would the children be able to turn around and say, yes, you were born out of wedlock? Is that the question is, are our children going to be accepted in our society doing this?
Karen, if you're living together, you're common law anyway. So it's not like you're a girlfriend. You have the same rights as a wife. It's not like same thing. It comes back to my son because they bought a house. They left together whenever. So unfortunately, they did separate. So there wasn't any different that they done anything. Unfortunately, they didn't had any children, or fortunately, I don't know how would you say that, right? So it didn't have to go through that. But everything else was just like a marriage. So why, when you're living together in here, like we are talking in Canada, so you're bound by your common law. So it comes again to just a piece of paper. All you don't have is the piece of paper. Otherwise, all your rights are same as the wife.
Yeah.
So Karen,
to have a kid, I don't think so. Okay, sorry.
Now she would like to respond to what you had to say.
Yeah, I would just like to
About a
put
child out of
one point across that, still you're living in a live-in relationship to understand and make your relationship work out. If you're still separating, right, what was the point in trying to even live in? Then you go search for another partner, do another live-in, and then still your wavelength does not match. Still you separate. And then the third one, then the fourth one, right?
Right.
But
Okay, once again.
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say, guys, remember, Punjabi vich tusi itthe gal kar sakde hain. You are listening to Garam Chai with Karan and Paul. Sarb, how would you like to answer the question here, if you'd like to?
Yes, that was a very good point. So to that point, I would like to say, telling an offspring, right, that they were born out of wedlock does not change how they conduct their life. Therefore, there is no significance. There's no significance in telling the child they were born out of wedlock. The generation I'm in, the friends and family that are around me, women, men, there are many that have been divorced. In fact, Census Canada has given us 79% of the population has divorced as of September 2020. That is
this Indo-Canadian?
That is a very high rate.
Sarah, that's not all South Asian community, right? In fact, Stats Canada, according to them, only 2% of South Asians are divorced.
And rising.
And that's the third lowest rate.
Yeah, but Paul, they are just staying because of, this is all there is. That's the story. Because my butt people's gonna say, I'm stuck because I have 2 kids now. Okay.
Not necessarily. Even a living relationship would have that attitude. I mean, if they're committed in their relationship that way, they can say, oh my God, I have 2 kids, so I'm staying in this relationship. I think that argument doesn't really make sense, because if you're married, would you still have the same commitment? How does it make it easier to walk away if you're in a living relationship?
It's not easy, okay, Raj, it's not easy. But when you're married, you have a 2 side of that. Okay, this is going to be your and your partner's decision, okay? Fine, this is not working out. We have a kids, fine. The kids' relationship is not going to be any different with you, your parents, your father, your mother. Okay, that's fine. But now you don't have the families. But when you're married, they are getting everything stuck into it, because they're going to burden everything. No, you should not get separated, because what's going to happen to your children? This is not your decision. This is going to be their decision. Either you should separate or you should stay together.
But you can have kids when you're just living in together as well.
But also, the argument you're saying is that they're stuck with each other and families get involved. Why is it less likely that if you're in a living relationship, that's not going to happen? If your family accepted the living relationship, there is going to be family involvement. So you can still have that happen. See, when I'm thinking of a marriage, one of the things I think that really binds us together is the fact that you do that celebration, and there is that community that is there to offer you that support, to say, hey, you know what? If things aren't working out too well, let's give you that support to make it happen. And a living relationship, especially if it's bad blood between families, they may not necessarily get that support. So there's something really strongly to be said about that marriage, where you have that network going, hey, we're there for you if things go sideways.
Well, let's go to Chetana. We're saying that it's society. We're talking about society. It's so important what society. What about the couple? What if they have that very strong bond between that, just that live-in relationship? Their bond is strong enough that they don't need a paper to say, yes, you know what? Now you're married, and now your relationship is stronger. Why does it have to be based on a piece of paper that your relationship is?
Well, it's never about a piece of paper. It's about the bonding and the trust. So you're in a live-in relationship because you don't trust each other. How you're going to get along in the path of lives? And I would say that, as Ams mentioned, that today your parents allow you to date a boy or a girl, try to know about each other, and maybe date for a year and then get married, right? So a marriage in itself gives you confidence. However, I would also say that, it's a partnership. It's not easy to raise a family, right? So when you are married, you already know that you have to make things work out the way everybody has their pros and cons. Nobody's perfect. I would have probably not seen any couple in this entire world who's perfect, to the situation that they will not fight or argue, or there can be many other things. But end of the day, they know that, they have to stay together for their own sake, family's sake, society's sake, whichever you can bring in, whichever reason, but they have to stay together.
Amrit said that regardless if you're married or not, after 12 months here in Canada, which is legal, that you become a common law, and then consequently you're considered remarried. What do you have to say about that?
Well, the thing is, with common law, you don't have marital rights. So when you're married, even in an event of a divorce, it's two very different things. When you are married legally and you're going through a divorce, the process is very different. You have some rights over all the things that you've done together, all the accomplishments that you had together. But I think more importantly, in this topic, I want to talk about the children, because I feel like when we talk about whether we're changing for the better or the good, we need to think about the future of the society. Because our parents were together, they were married when they had children. When we were in high school, we had a fear, like we don't want to do anything that's going to disappoint them, because it's going to be looked down upon. We all know, like when children are getting into relationships, when they are going through that stage of life, they are going to get intimate with each other. But only thing is, they are more careful about it. They are taking the right precautions to make sure that they're not coming home pregnant at the age of 16. But now, if you have a child out of wedlock, your child's going to go to school, and say at the age of 16, even if they are pregnant, they're going to come home and tell you, well, you had me when you weren't married, so what's the difference? They don't have the maturity level to understand the difference of, like I was 27 and living with somebody, but you're 16.
While you're listening to Garam Chai with Karen, Pinky, how would you like to Karen and Paul? How would you like to respond to that?
One thing that I really like that AMS has been pointing out is there's not the same restrictions that were there 30 years ago or 40 years ago, or even during my time. Hey, these young individuals have the opportunity to date each other. They've dated each other, especially if the argument is, well, they've dated each other, let them do the live-in and then let them get married. Well, what's different? They're still going to go to that same ending result where they're going to get married. The point being, if you already have the opportunity to date, why not now celebrate that union by actually having the family celebrate, have that wedding celebration, have it where people know that you guys are now one unit, as opposed to, and in our society, unfortunately, even till this day, when you see live-in relationship, they're not viewed as same as a married couple. The married couple is viewed as a more stronger unit, unfortunately, but that's just the way it is.
Absolutely, Raj. Absolutely. I agree with you 100% on that. It is a celebration of, just like when we have a child, a celebration of life. It's a celebration of love, two people coming together, but being a child of a divorced family, broken family, is I can't say it's as equal as being a child out of wedlock, but you are torn between two families. Sometimes, which I have a friend who had a child at a very young age out of wedlock, and the father has never been in the picture. To her now, when her child's a young adult, she says it was a blessing in disguise. There was never that push and pull. That child never had to go between two homes. And she is a happily married woman with two other children. And it's a perfect, beautiful life under their roof. If you allow a couple that are 25 plus, now couples aren't getting married until they're 32, 33, from 30 onward, and then starting their families, they know they're in it for the long haul. They will be prepared. I have been married for over 2 decades. I've been married for 3 decades next year. The hiccups, my husband and I are as tight as I think anyone could be. But let me tell you, there were many hiccups. There were many roller coaster rides. There were many times that I thought I'm going to walk out, or he thought he was going to. But what kept us together was the love for each other. It wasn't for anybody else. It wasn't for a child that has a disability, a child that's trying to get through university, family members dying around you. It wasn't for anybody. It was for the two of us. And for myself and my husband, it's totally different story. I met him when I was a young girl, and we grew up together. It's solid. It's great. Moving forward, the divorce rates that I'm seeing, couples that have gone out together for 8, 9, 10 years. Today, I could name you 4 couples off the top of my mind that are they got married and they're divorcing within 2 years. What has happened what transpired? They dated. They would drop each other off at the door. They would meet up. They'd be together at each other's parents' houses, grandparents, Christmases, everything. But not even 18 months to 2 years. And usually now there's a child involved, an infant. Okay. And that story for that child is not going to be going well.
How would you like to respond to that, Raj?
I think when we're looking at a live-in relationship, why is there an assumption that if you do a live-in relationship, it's somehow miraculously going to last longer or it's going to work out better? I don't think that's the case. I think you already established that by dating. Like that's been established. The next phase, and we're talking about, I do agree, we're all getting married later in life. We're all making choices. I don't think by you committing and saying I'm going to get married that you're going to more likely to separate than somebody who's done a live-in relationship. There's still just as a higher chance, if not higher. And again, I'm going back to that study that I was reading in Time magazine, is that there's actually a more likelihood of a live-in relationship to fall apart than somebody that is actually married.
Well, guys, you know what? I
would call that a blessing in disguise. You are saving yourself and everybody around you a huge heartache, because you have now, by living together, it's like roommates. You know, sometimes you can't even live with your own mother after you've been married and gone from the house for 30 years and you go back. You're like, Mom, I can never live with you. So by living together, sorry, go ahead.
Actually, we're going to take our last response here. Amreen, how would you like to respond to that?
I just want to talk about how we think it's a higher heartache if you are married. I actually feel like it is a higher heartache when you're living in, because the taboo that our society has made. In our society, it's not like so acceptable to live in together. So you're kind of going against the rules of the society to live in together. So when that doesn't work out, now you're scared about your mental health, because it really takes a toll on your mental health when you're thinking, oh my God, I'm going to go out now and people are going to say so many things to me. People are going to talk about how I went against them and I did this and I failed. But when you're married, you kind of have the support of your family. And I feel like these days, if you are in a toxic marriage, if you do have an abusive partner, your parents are more than okay with you leaving that person. So you're not in that marriage anymore. Whereas when you are going against your parents and society to go into a live-in relationship, you're not going to have that support, because they're going to tell you, I told you so. And so now you don't have that mental support anymore, and you're going through a bigger heartache.
Well, I see everyone has their hands up. Unfortunately, we've just been told that our time is limited. So we're going to have to put a stop to this debate. And we'd like to, a special thanks to all our panelists. Thank you to each and every one of you for taking time out.
Thank you.
And we want to thank Raja Shergill, our producer, and a very special thanks to our young man, Ishdeep, for designing our logo.
Thank you for everything and being part of our team. We hope this was educational for everyone, including our listeners. We would love to hear from you about this debate and topics that you would like us to debate on Garam Chai with Karan and Paul.
We have received numerous requests for our next debate, and which is going to be very garam in the South Asian community. On our next podcast, we'll be debating interracial and intercaste marriages.
If you have strong opinions about this topic and are interested in participating on our next debate show, we would love to hear from you. Please feel free to email us at garamchaikp@outlook.com. That's garamchaikp@outlook.com. Until our next debate, please remain safe, healthy, and have a wonderful week.